The alarm screamed at 4 in the morning and Kara rolled out of her bunk, before her brain fully processed where she was. Station Krivath Training Day 1. She pulled on the standard-issue training uniform that had been left in her quarters, and it fit perfectly despite being designed for Elvari proportions. The fabric was strange against her skin, and it felt like wearing air that somehow provided armor. The corridors were empty as Kara made her way to the training hall, and her boots echoed off metal walls that curved upward into darkness. Through the viewing ports, she could see stars that Earth astronomers had not even named yet. This was really happening. She was really here. The training hall doors opened with a soft hiss, and Kara stopped in her tracks. The entire space had been transformed overnight. Where there had been a simple open floor yesterday, now there was a maze of platforms suspended at different heights, and some hovered in mid-air without any visible support, while others were connected by narrow bridges that looked barely wide enough for one person. Dragons perched on the highest platforms, and their scales caught the artificial light and threw it back in colors that hurt to look at directly. Commander Lyria stood in the center of the room with Vexis beside her. The other students were already assembled, and 40 pairs of eyes turned to watch Kara enter. "You are 3 minutes early," Human Lyria said without looking at a timepiece. "That is acceptable." But barely. Kara joined the formation and tried not to think about how much taller everyone else was. "Good morning, cadets." Lyria's voice carried effortlessly through the massive space. "Today you will learn the first lesson of dragon riding, which is that dragons do not carry passengers, and they carry partners. The dragon you bonded with yesterday now shares a piece of your consciousness, and you share a piece of theirs. But this connection is new and fragile, like a rope made of spider silk. Your first task is to strengthen that rope." Behind Lyria, the platform suddenly lit up with glowing marks. "Each of you will navigate this course while maintaining mental contact with your dragon, and if the connection breaks for even a moment, you will fall. There are safety fields to catch you, but the fall will hurt, and more importantly, you will have failed." An Elvari student raised her hand. "What if we have not bonded yet? Then you will practice alone until a dragon chooses you, or until you wash out." Lyria gestured to the course begin. The students scattered, and each one heading toward a different entry point. Kara looked up at the platforms and tried to calculate the best route. The higher paths looked more direct, but also more dangerous. "Small human." The voice in her head made Kara jump. She looked up and saw Vexis watching her from his perch. "You overthink this. It is not about the best path, but about trust. How am I supposed to trust something I just met yesterday?" Amusement rippled through their connection. "You trusted enough to put your hand on my scales, and that is more than most would do. Now trust enough to jump." Kara approached the nearest platform, and it was about 8 feet off the ground. She crouched and leaped, and her fingers caught the edge, and she pulled herself up with arms that were already starting to burn. Around her, the Elvari students moved like water, and they flowed from platform to platform with the kind of grace that came from a lifetime of training. Kara forced herself not to watch them. She focused on the next platform, and this one was 12 feet away and 10 feet higher. No way she could make that jump. "You can if you let me help." Vexis's voice was patient. "Feel the connection between us, and it is not just thoughts but energy. Let it flow into your muscles." Kara closed her eyes and reached for that thread of warmth in her chest. It responded immediately, and it spread through her body like liquid fire. When she opened her eyes, everything looked sharper, and her muscles felt coiled and ready. She jumped. The distance that had seemed impossible suddenly felt easy, and Kara landed on the platform in a crouch, and her legs absorbed the impact without strain. What was that? That was partnership. Little one dragons are not just riders in the sky, but we enhance those we bond with, and we make them faster and stronger and more than they were. Together we are greater than apart. Kara looked down at her hands, and they were not glowing, but she could feel power humming under her skin. "This is incredible." "This is only the beginning." Kara moved to the next platform and then the next. Each jump became easier as she learned to draw on the connection with Vexis. The energy did not make her Elvari strong, but it made her strong enough. She was halfway through the course when she heard a scream. One of the students had missed a jump and was falling toward the safety field below. The field caught her, but even from a distance, Kara could see the pain on the girl's face. Lyria appeared beside. The fallen student broken connection means broken concentration, and broken concentration means failure. Get up and try again. The student limped to the starting point, and Kara forced herself to focus on her own path. She reached a platform that had 3 possible routes forward. One led up toward where the dragons perched. One led across a series of narrow bridges. The third dropped down before climbing back up. Go up, Vexus's voice was certain. Always choose the path that brings you closer. Kara did not question it. She jumped to the next platform and then the next, and climbing higher with each leap. The air grew thinner up here, or maybe that was just her imagination. She was 20 feet from the top platform when her foot slipped. For a heart-stopping moment, Kara was falling. Then Vexus was there, and not physically, but in her mind. His presence flooded the connection and gave her a burst of strength. She did not know she had. Kara's hand shot out and caught the edge of the platform. She hung there, and muscles screaming as she fought to pull herself up. You are stronger than you believe. Vexus's voice was steady. Your body knows this, even if your mind doubts. Prove it. Kara pulled with everything she had. Her arms shook, and her shoulders felt like they were tearing, but inch by inch she dragged herself onto the platform. She lay there and gasping for breath as her heart hammered against her ribs. Around her she could hear other students moving through the course. Some were ahead of her. Most were. Behind you did it, you did, pride-colored Vexus's tone. Now finish. Kara pushed herself to her feet. The top platform was right there and just one more jump away. She gathered herself and felt the connection with Vexus burning bright in her chest. Then she leaped, landed on the top platform beside Vexus himself. The dragon lowered his massive head until one glowing eye was level with hers. Well done, little human. From up here, Kara could see the entire training hall. Most students were still working through the middle sections. A few had fallen and were starting over. Only 3 others had reached the top platforms with their dragons. Commander Lyria stood below and watching everything. When her eyes met Kara's, she nodded once. That single nod felt like winning. A metal Kara sat down beside Vexus and let herself catch her breath. Her body ached in places she did not know could ache. Tomorrow would be worse. But right now, and sitting beside a dragon on top of the galaxy, while other students struggled below, she felt something she had not expected. She felt like she belonged. The second day of training started in the armory, and a room filled with weapons that made Earth's military technology look like Stone Age tools. Commander Lyria walked between rows of gleaming blades and energy rifles as the students stood at attention. Dragon Rider must be deadly on the ground before they can be deadly. In the sky, Lyria pulled a curved blade from the wall and it hummed with power. Today you learn combat. Kara tried not to show her nervousness. She had trained in hand-to-hand combat and knife fighting and even sword work back on Earth. But something told her this would be different. Lyria pointed to a tall Elvari student with white hair. Natasha, and you will demonstrate first. The student stepped forward and selected a training blade from a rack. These weapons are set to stun mode, but they will still hurt. Lyria gestured to the sparring circle. Begin. What happened next was almost too fast for Kara to follow. Natasha moved like lightning and her blade a silver blur as she attacked. Lyria did not seem to move quickly, but somehow she was never where the blade aimed. She deflected strikes with minimal effort and turned Natasha's momentum against her. In less than 30 seconds, Natasha was on the ground, and the training blade skittering. Across the floor, Lyria helped her up. Good aggression, but poor control, and you telegraphed every strike. Natasha bowed and returned to formation. Over the next hour, Kara watched as student after student faced Lyria. Some lasted longer than others, but none came close to landing a hit. Then Lyria's eyes found Kara. The human will go next. Kara's stomach dropped, but she forced herself to walk forward calmly. She selected a training blade and tested its weight. It was lighter than she expected and perfectly balanced. Lyria smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Show me what Earth taught you. Kara settled into a defensive stance, and one she had practiced 10,000 times. She knew she could not match Elvari's speed, but maybe she could be unpredictable. Lyria attacked. The blade came at Kara's shoulder and she barely got her own weapon up in time to block. The impact sent vibrations up her arm. Lyria did not pause. Strike after strike came, and each one harder than the last. Kara blocked and dodged and gave ground steadily. She could hear Vexus in her mind offering encouragement, but right now the connection felt distant. All her focus was on not getting hit. You fight defensively. Lyria's voice was calm despite the furious pace. That will get you killed. Kara saw an opening and took it. She lunged forward and aimed for Lyria's side. The commander twisted away, and her blade coming around in a counterstrike that Kara barely avoided. Better. Now you are thinking. The pace increased. Kara's arms burned and her legs shook, but she refused to give up. She remembered what Vexus had shown her on the platforms. The connection could make her stronger. She reached for it and felt that warmth spread through her muscles. Her next block was solid. Her next dodge was faster. Lyria's eyes widened slightly. Interesting. The commander's attacks became more complex and combining feints with real strikes in patterns that should have been impossible to read. But with Vexus's energy flowing through her, Kara could almost see them coming. Dicio blocked 3 strikes in rapid succession, and then did something unexpected. She dropped low and swept at Lyria's legs. The commander jumped back, and actually surprised. For a heartbeat, they were both still. Then Lyria laughed. No human has ever made me move like that on their second day. She lowered her blade. Well done, Kara Mitchell. Kara tried to catch her breath and her whole body trembling from effort. Did I pass? Lyria's smile softened slightly. You survived, and that is more than most humans could. Do return to formation. The rest of the morning was spent learning basic forms and blade positions. Kara's arms felt like they would fall off, but she pushed through. At midday, the students were given a break. Kara found a quiet corner and collapsed against the wall. A shadow fell over her. She looked up to see 3 Elvari students standing there. The one in front had red hair and cold eyes. You are the human everyone is talking about. Kara stood slowly. That is me. The red-haired girl circled her like a predator. My name is Claire, and I have trained since I could walk. My mother was a dragon rider, and her mother before her. Kara waited. She had a feeling she knew where this was going. You bonded with Vexus on your first day. The girl's voice was sharp with anger. Do you know how many students have tried to bond with him over the years and how many have failed? I did not ask him to choose me. That is the problem. Claire stepped closer. You do not belong here, and you are weak and slow, and you will get someone killed. When we fly into real combat, one of the other students touched Claire's arm. Leave it. Claire shook her off. No. And she needs to understand what she has done by taking a bond that should have gone to one of us. Before Kara could respond, Vexus's voice filled her mind. Do you need me to come? Kara thought back. No, and I can handle this. Are you certain? Yes. She met Claire's glare without backing down. I am here because Earth Defense Force sent me. I am training because Commander Lyria accepted me, and Vexus chose me for reasons I do not fully understand yet. But I am not leaving. Claire's hand moved toward the training blade at her hip. Maybe you need another lesson about how outmatched you are. That is enough. Commander Lyria's voice cut through the tension. Claire, and my office after training. The red-haired girl shot Kara one last angry look before walking away. Lyria waited until the other students were out of earshot. Claire lost her sister in battle last year. Her sister's dragon went wild with grief and had to be released back to their homeworld. She sees you as an outsider taking something sacred. Kara felt some of her anger fade. I did not know. You could not have known. Lyria's expression was unreadable. But understand this. And dragon bonds are rare and precious. Some Elvari train their entire lives and never bond. You did it in minutes. That will breed resentment, so what am I supposed to do? Prove you deserve it. Lyria turned to leave and then paused. The afternoon session is flight simulation. Do not be late. Kara watched her go and then looked up at the ceiling. Somewhere above her, Vexus was perched on his platform. Did you know this would cause problems? The dragon's amusement trickled through their connection. I knew it would be interesting. Thanks for the warning. You are welcome, little one. Kara shook her head and almost smiled. The afternoon simulation was worse than combat training. Students sat in pods that recreated the experience of riding a dragon through space combat. The first time Kara felt the sensation of diving through zero gravity while plasma fire streaked past her head, she threw up into the collection bag provided. The second time was not much better. By the fifth run, she could keep her stomach under control, but her head spun, and her hands shook. Other students seemed barely affected. Natasha completed 10 runs without even looking dizzy. When training finally ended, Kara dragged herself back to her quarters. She fell onto her bunk fully clothed, every muscle hurt. Her head pounded. Tomorrow would be day 3 and she had no idea what fresh torture awaited. But as she drifted towards sleep, she felt Vexus's presence in her mind. You did well today. I threw up 5 times. You only quit 0 times. And that is what matters. Kara smiled despite her exhaustion. Good night, Vexus. Good night, little warrior. Day 7 arrived, and Kara could not believe she had survived a full week. Her body had adapted to the brutal training schedule, but just barely. This morning was different, though. Commander Lyria had announced they would begin actual flight training with their bonded dragons. Real flight and not simulations. Kara stood on the launch platform with the other students. Below them was open space. Above them was nothing but stars. Vexus landed beside her with enough force to make the platform shake. His scales gleamed blue-silver in the station lights. Ready, not even a little bit. Good, and fear keeps you alert. He lowered himself until his shoulder was level with the platform climb. Ankara had watched videos of Elvari riders mounting their dragons. It looked graceful and easy. She grabbed the ridge along Vexus's spine and tried to pull herself up. Her foot slipped twice before she managed to scramble onto his back. There were no straps and no harness, and nothing but her grip on his scales between her and the void. This seems unsafe. Lyria's voice carried across the platform. The bond will keep you connected, and if you trust your dragon, you will not fall. Around Kara. The other students were mounting their dragons with practiced ease. Claire shot her a look that clearly said she expected Kara to fail. Vexus shifted beneath her. Hold tight, little one. And this will feel strange at first, before Kara could ask what he meant. Vexus launched himself off the platform. The station fell away beneath them. Stars wheeled overhead. Kara's stomach tried to exit through her throat. She pressed herself flat against Vexus's neck, and her fingers digging into his scales. Breathe, his voice was calm in her mind. Feel the rhythm of my wings and move with it. Kara forced herself to breathe slowly. She became aware of the pattern, the powerful downstroke, and the brief moment of glide. She tried to move with it instead of fighting it. Better. Now look up. Kara raised her head. The view took what little breath she had left. Space stretched. In every direction. Station Krivath looked small behind them. Other dragons flew in formation, and their riders sitting confidently on their backs. Kara was flying on a dragon through space. This was actually happening. How do you feel? Terrified. Vexus's amusement rippled through their bond, also alive in a way I have never felt before. Yes, that is what flight should feel like. They practiced basic maneuvers for the next hour, turns and climbs and dives that made Kara's head spin. Several times she nearly lost her grip, but each time Vexus steadied himself and gave her time to recover. The other students made it look effortless. Claire's dragon performed a barrel roll that would have thrown Kara into space. When they finally returned to the station, Kara's legs shook so badly she could barely stand. Lyria walked among the returning students. Most of you did adequately. She stopped in front of Kara. The human managed not to fall off. That is improvement. Over the next week, flight training intensified. They learned combat maneuvers and pursuit patterns and emergency protocols. Kara crashed into the safety nets more times than she could count. But slowly, and with Vexus's patient guidance, she improved. On day 15, something changed. They were practicing formation, flying when alarms began screaming through the station. All students report to briefing room immediately. Lyria's voice came through the communication system. This is not a drill. The briefing room was chaos. Students crowded in while instructors pulled up tactical displays. Lyria stood at the front with Captain Saris beside her. We have received a distress call from a civilian transport. They are under attack by raiders. 3 systems away. Cirrus pointed to the display showing a ship surrounded by smaller craft. The transport carries 200 civilians, including children. Local defense forces are overwhelmed. Lyria's expression was grim. We are the closest combat-capable unit. The Council has authorized a rescue mission. A nervous murmur ran through the students. This would be their first real combat. Claire raised her hand. Who is going? Lyria looked around the room. All bonded riders, and your dragons are already being prepared. You leave in 30 minutes. Kara's heart pounded. She had barely survived training. Flights now. They wanted her to fly into actual combat. You can do this. Vexus's voice was steady in her mind. I would not have chosen you if I thought otherwise. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur. Kara suited up in combat armor that felt too light to stop anything. She checked her weapons and a blade and a small energy pistol. Other students moved around her with the kind of focused intensity that came before battle. On the launch platform, Vexus waited. His scales seemed darker now and more purple, then blue. Some kind of combat mode. Kara realized ready no good, and let the fear sharpen your focus. Kara climbed onto his back. This time she did not slip. Lyria's voice came through the communication channel in Kara's helmet. Listen carefully, and we jump. In 30 seconds, the transport is surrounded by 15 raider craft. Our priority is civilian evacuation. Engage raiders only if they threaten the transport or interfere with rescue. She paused. Some of you have never seen real combat. Stay with your wing partners and follow orders. Do not try to be heroes. The platform depressurized. Kara watched the countdown. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The universe twisted. Jumping through hyperspace on a dragon was nothing like jumping on a ship. Kara felt every moment of the fold and the way space bent around them. Then they were there. The transport was huge and easily the size of 3 stations. Raider craft swarmed around it like insects, and their weapons tearing into the transport's hull. Debris floated everywhere. Wing 3, secure the evacuation point. Lyria's voice was crisp. Wing 2, suppress the raiders on the port side. Wing 1, with me on the starboard approach. Vexus dove without waiting for Kara to acknowledge. They were in Wing 1, the closest. Raider craft spotted them and turned to engage. Kara saw plasma fire streak toward them. Vexus rolled and the shots passed harmlessly by. Now, little one, and hold on. He opened his mouth and blue-white fire poured out. The plasma breath hit the raider craft. Dead center, its shields flared and failed. The craft tumbled away, trailing smoke. Kara barely had time to process what happened before they were engaging another target. This raider was faster. It wove between debris and made itself hard to hit. Vexus pursued, with single-minded focus. The raider fired and Vexus twisted, but not fast enough. Plasma grazed his wing. Pain flashed through the bond and Kara gasped, "Are you all right? Fly and I heal, just hold on." Anger flooded through Kara. These raiders had hurt Vexus, had hurt civilians. She reached for the energy pistol at her hip when Vexus brought them close to the raider craft. She fired. The shot was wild, but it caught the raider's engine. The craft spiraled away. Around them the battle raged. Other dragons breathed. Fire raider craft exploded. The transport's hull was breached in a dozen places. Evacuation pods launched toward the waiting rescue ships. Commander Lyria's dragon tore through 3 raiders in rapid succession. Claire fought with brutal efficiency. Even Natasha moved with the confidence of a veteran. Kara held on and fired when she could and trusted Vexus to keep them alive. The bond between them burned bright. She could feel his pain and his determination, and his pride in her. Together they were more than the sum of their parts. Then one of the raider craft broke from the fight. It was heading straight for an evacuation. No, Kara did not think. She just acted. Vexus felt her intention through the bond and dove. They intercepted the raider seconds before. It could fire. Vexus's claws raked across its hull. Kara fired 3 times and each shot finding its mark. The raider exploded. The evacuation pod continued safely toward the rescue ship. All raiders are retreating. Cirrus's voice came through the channel. Transport is secure and all civilians evacuated. Mission successful. Return to station. As they flew back through hyperspace, Kara realized she was shaking. Vexus's voice was gentle. You saved those lives. We saved them. Yes, little warrior, and we did. The days after the rescue mission felt different. Students who had looked at Kara with suspicion now nodded when she passed. Even Claire stopped glaring. though she did not exactly become friendly. But Commander Lyria seemed unsatisfied on day 20. 3. She called Kara to her office. Vexus tells me you are holding back in training. Lyria sat behind a desk made of something that looked like crystal. Kara shifted uncomfortably. I do not understand. During the rescue you acted on instinct and you saved that evacuation pod without hesitation. But in training, you second-guess everything you calculate instead of react. That is because training is different from real combat. Lyria leaned forward. Is it though? Or have you convinced yourself that training is practice while combat is real? What if you treated every training session like it mattered as much as that? Rescue Kara had no answer. Tomorrow we begin. The trial runs. Lyria's expression was serious. These are the final tests before a rider is certified. For active duty, you will face scenarios designed to push you to your absolute limit. Some riders do not pass. Some do not survive. Kara felt her mouth go dry. What happens if I fail? You return to Earth. Lyria stood and walked to the window overlooking the launch platforms. But I do not think you will fail. I think you will surprise everyone, including yourself. The next morning, Kara stood with 15 other students in the briefing room. Captain Cirrus explained the trial runs. Each rider would face 3 challenges alone. The first tested flying skill. The second tested combat ability. The third tested something different in decision-making under impossible circumstances. You will not know what each trial involves until you begin. Cirrus's eyes swept across the room. Some of you will face your worst fears. All of you will face situations with no good options. The goal is not to win, but to choose. Well, students went in alphabetical order. That meant Kara was 10th. She watched as the first rider disappeared into the trial chamber. An hour later they emerged looking shaken but alive. The second rider took longer. The third came out with tears streaming down her face. When Kara's turn came, she walked into a room that looked empty, except for a single door. Vexus's voice filled her mind. I cannot come with you into the trials, but our bond remains. Feel me even when you cannot see me. The door opened. Kara stepped through into darkness. Then light exploded around her. She was in space. Asteroids tumbled past in a chaotic pattern. Ahead was a narrow canyon carved through a massive asteroid. Your objective is to fly through the canyon without touching the walls. You have 3 minutes. A timer appeared in her vision. Kara looked around for Vexus, but he was not there. This was a simulation. She was in some kind of virtual reality, but it felt completely real. She started forward. The canyon walls were close and barely wider than Vexus's wingspan. She had to time her movements perfectly with the rotation of the asteroids halfway. Through the canyon split in 3 directions. Kara chose the middle path. It narrowed even further. She scraped her shoulder against a wall and alarm screamed in her ears. Focus. She could feel Vexus through the bond even though he was not physically present. His presence steadied her. She made it through with 40 seconds to spare. The simulation dissolved. Kara found herself standing in the trial chamber again. Challenge 1 complete. The mechanical voice offered no praise or criticism. Prepare for Challenge 2. This time when light exploded around her, Kara was ready. She stood on the deck of a damaged space station. Through a massive breach in the hull, she could see enemy ships approaching. You have 4 weapons. The voice listed them: 1 plasma rifle with limited ammunition, 1 energy blade, 1 explosive charge, 1 communications device. Defend the station until reinforcements arrive in 5 minutes. 3 enemy boarding craft attached to the hull. Soldiers poured out. Kara counted 12 and no 13. She was alone and outnumbered, and the timer was already counting down. She grabbed the plasma rifle and took cover behind a support beam. The first soldier appeared. Kara fired, and the shot went wide. The soldier returned, fire plasma scorched. The beam inches from her head. Breathe. Vexus's voice reminded her, you have done this before. Kara leaned out and fired twice. Both shots hit. The soldier went down, but more were coming. She could not fight them all head on. Kara ran to the breach in the hull and placed the explosive charge. Then she fell back and used the communications device. Attention enemy forces. Her voice echoed through the station. This station's reactor is set to overload in 60 seconds. Evacuate immediately, or die here. It was a bluff. The reactor was fine, but the soldiers did not know that. She saw them hesitate. Some started falling back. Others kept advancing. Kara fired at the explosive charge. The blast was not huge, but it looked dramatic. Debris flew everywhere. Alarms blared. The remaining soldiers broke and ran. Kara defended the position until the timer ran out. Challenge 2 complete. Prepare for challenge. 3. Kara's hands shook as the simulation reset. 2 down, 1 to go. The final challenge was different. Kara stood in a small ship through the view screen. She could see 2 other ships. One was a medical transport marked with red crosses. The other was an unmarked civilian vessel. Both were damaged. Both were venting atmosphere. The mechanical voice returned, but this time it sounded almost sad. You have enough rescue equipment to save 1 ship. The medical transport carries 15 doctors and nurses returning from a disaster zone. The civilian vessel carries 30 colonists, including 12 children. You must choose. Choose now, Kara felt. Ice in her stomach. This was not fair. How was she supposed to choose between saving medical personnel or children? Time is running out. Both ships will be destroyed in 90 seconds. Decide. Kara reached for Vexus through the bond. I do not know what to. The dragon's presence was warm and solid. What does your heart tell you? Both lives matter, and I cannot choose who deserves to live more. Then perhaps that is your answer. Kara grabbed the communications device. This is Lieutenant Kara Mitchell to both vessels, and I am initiating emergency rescue medical transport. Prepare to transfer your smallest person through the airlock civilian vessel. Prepare to send your critical patients. She began moving rescue equipment. Instead of trying to save 1 ship completely, she would try to save as many people as possible from both. It was not perfect. She could not save everyone, but she could save more than if she chose just 1. Kara worked frantically, transferring people between ships, using every piece of equipment she had. When the timer hit 0, she had saved 23 people. 7 from the medical transport, 16 from the civilian vessel, including all 12 children. The simulation froze. Challenge 3 complete. Kara was back in the trial chamber. Her legs gave out and she sat down hard on the floor. The door opened. Commander Lyria stood there with Captain Saris. How did I do? Kara's voice came out as a whisper. Lyria helped her to her feet. The trials are not about getting perfect scores. They are about revealing who you are under pressure. Most riders choose 1 ship or the other. You chose to save as many as you could from both. That shows creativity and compassion, and a refusal to accept no-win scenarios. Ceres nodded. Very human of you. Is that good or bad? Lyria smiled. It is exactly what we need. Over the next week, the other students completed their trials. Some passed. 3 did not. Claire passed with the highest combat score anyone had seen in years. Natasha struggled with the final challenge, but eventually passed on day 30. Commander Lyria assembled all the riders who had completed their trials. You have trained. You have fought. You have proven yourselves worthy of the bond you carry. She walked down the line, meeting each rider's eyes. Tomorrow you will be inducted as full dragon riders in the Elvari Empire. For most of you this was expected. Your families have served for generations. Lyria stopped in front of Kara. For one of you this was impossible. No human has ever stood where you stand. Now Kara felt tears threatening, but refused to let them fall. The ceremony is at dawn. Do not be late. That night Kara could not sleep. She stood at her window, watching the stars. Vexus's presence filled her mind. Nervous. Terrified. This is real now, and no more training. It has always been real, little warrior. Tomorrow just makes it official. Kara smiled. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for being worth choosing. As the first light of dawn touched the station, Kara pulled on her formal uniform. It was time to become something Earth had never seen before, a human dragon rider. The ceremony hall was unlike anything Kara had ever seen. Crystal columns rose toward a ceiling that somehow showed the stars beyond the station. Every surface seemed to glow with soft light. Hundreds of Elvari filled the seats and veteran dragon riders. In formal armor, their dragons perched on platforms along the walls and their scales reflecting the light in rainbow patterns. Kara stood with the other graduates in a line before the raised platform. Her hands were sweating inside her gloves. At the front of the hall, 3 figures waited: Commander Lyria, Captain Saris, and someone Kara had never seen before. The new arrival was an older Elvari woman whose presence seemed to fill the entire space. Her armor was ancient-looking and marked with symbols Kara did not recognize. "That is High Commander Vera," Natasha whispered beside Kara. "She leads the entire Dragon Corps, and she has not attended a graduation ceremony in 20 years. Why is she here now?" Natasha glanced at Kara. "Probably because of you." The ceremony began with traditional words in the Elvari language. Kara had studied enough to understand most of it. Speeches about honor and duty, and the sacred bond between rider and dragon. Then High Commander Vera stepped forward. Her voice carried effortlessly through the hall. "We gather to witness the bonding of new riders. Each of you has proven worthy through trial and sacrifice." She paused, and her eyes finding Kara in the line. "This year we witnessed something unprecedented. Human stands among our graduates," whispers ran through the crowd. Vera raised a hand for silence. Some questioned whether this was wise. "Humans are fragile. They lack our strength and our heritage. They do not understand our ways." Kara felt her face burning. Many believed she would fail, that she would prove humans have no place among dragon riders. Vera's expression softened. They were wrong during the rescue of transport vessel Meridian. This human acted without hesitation to save lives. In her trials, she showed creativity and compassion and courage. Her dragon Vexus, who has refused riders for 30 years, chose her after mere minutes. The High Commander descended from the platform and walked directly to Kara. "Lieutenant Kara." "Mitchell," Kara snapped to attention. "Yes, Commander. You represent your entire species here. The weight you carry is greater than any other graduate. How do you bear this burden?" Kara thought about lying, about giving some practiced answer. Instead, she spoke the truth. "With difficulty, Commander, and every day I worry I will fail. Not just myself, but everyone who hoped a human could do this." Good Vera's smile was approving. "Only fools carry great weight without feeling it. Now tell me why you are here." Kara met the High Commander's eyes. "I am here because Earth needs to understand the galaxy. And because the galaxy needs to understand Earth, we are different. But difference can be strength." Vera nodded slowly. "Wise words. Let us see if you can live up to them." The formal bonding ceremony began. Each graduate stepped forward with their dragon. They spoke ancient vows, received their rider marks and intricate tattoos that would glow when they flew. When Kara's turn came, Vexus landed beside the platform. His scales gleamed brighter than she had ever seen. "Lieutenant Kara." Mitchell Lyria's voice was formal. "Do you swear to honor the bond you carry? To protect those who cannot protect themselves? To fly with courage and land with wisdom?" "I swear." "Do you accept Vexus as your partner, to share his strength and his burdens? To trust him with your life as he trusts you with his?" "I accept." Vexus lowered his massive head. "Our bond was forged in fire, little warrior. Now it becomes eternal. Are you ready always?" The marking master approached with tools that looked more magical than mechanical. "This will hurt." The warning came too late. The first mark burned into Kara's shoulder. She bit back a scream, and her teeth clenched so hard her jaw ached. The pattern spread down her arm, lines of light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Through the bond she felt Vexus receiving his own marks, matching patterns that glowed on his scales. When it was finished, Kara's entire right arm was covered in intricate designs. They glowed blue-silver like Vexus's scales. The marking master stepped back. "It is done." Vera raised her voice. "I present to you the newest riders of the Elvari Dragon Corps." The hall erupted in applause. Dragons roared, and the sound shaking the walls. Kara looked at her arm and at the marks that now proclaimed her a dragon rider. This was real. She had actually done it. The celebration afterward was overwhelming. Veteran riders approached to offer congratulations. Some seemed genuinely impressed. Others were clearly skeptical, but polite. Claire found Kara near the food tables. The red-haired girl had been drinking something that smelled potent. "You know, I hated you at first." Claire's words were slightly slurred. Kara nodded. "I noticed you took something I wanted. Vexus should have been mine. I understand Claire took another drink, but you saved those civilians. You did not hesitate. You just acted." She swayed slightly. "Maybe you do deserve him," Kara steadied her. "Thank you, Claire, and that means a lot." The red-haired girl waved her off. "Do not get soft, and I still think humans are weak. But you are less weak than most," it was probably the best compliment Kara would get from her as the celebration continued. Kara slipped outside to the observation deck. The stars were brilliant against the black of space dragons flew past the station, and their riders practicing formations. Vexus landed beside her. "You are thinking loudly." "Little warrior?" Kara smiled, just trying to process everything. "A month ago I was a lieutenant on Earth. Now I am a dragon rider in an alien empire. Strange how life changes." The dragon settled down, and his warmth radiating through the deck. "What comes next?" "That is what I was wondering," Lyria said. "We start active duty assignments next week. More rescues, probably, maybe combat missions. Does that frighten you?" "Yes, good fear. Keeps you sharp." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Vexus shifted. "There is something you should know. When I chose you, I saw something in your mind. A determination that burned brighter than any Elvari I have met." Kara turned to look at him. "What did you see?" "I saw a human who refused to accept limitations, who looked at the impossible and saw only a challenge to overcome." His glowing eyes met hers. "That is why I chose you. Not despite being human, but because of it." Kara felt tears threaten again. "I will not let you down. You already have." Not together, they watched the stars and a human and a dragon who had defied every expectation. Back on Earth, the news of Kara's graduation was spreading. The first human dragon rider. Some called it a publicity stunt. Others saw it as a new era of cooperation between species. Kara did not care what they called it. She knew the truth. The bond she shared with Vexus was real. The training had been brutal, but worth it. The challenges ahead would be even harder. But she was ready. They were ready, because she had learned the most important lesson: humans might be weaker than Elvari, slower, less experienced, but humans had something else: stubbornness, creativity, a refusal to quit, even when every logical reason said they should. That was humanity's strength. That was why Vexus had chosen her on the observation deck. Kara stood and stretched. "Come on, partner, and let us see what other impossible things we can accomplish." Vexus rose beside her. "Where do you want to start?" Kara grinned. "How about we show the galaxy what a human dragon rider can really do?" The dragon's amusement rippled through their bond. "Now you sound like a warrior." They launched into space together. Above them the stars waited, below them station. Cravath grew smaller. Ahead of them was everything, the galaxy's deadliest. Girls had met their match in a human who refused to quit. And together they would show everyone that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships become the strongest bonds. Sometimes the outsider becomes the hero. Sometimes being different is exactly what the galaxy needs. Kara Mitchell had come to station Cravath alone, but she flew into the future with Vexus beside her, a human and a dragon partner's warriors, ready for whatever came next. The end was just another beginning.